Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to MiM Monday. This is Mickey in Minutes Live, a quick conversation about some of the latest Disney news with you. I'm your host, Nick Lazaga, and on today's show, Olaf Animatronic replaces live Disney animators, Villans Land Plans scrapped, and so much more. So thanks everybody for joining me in the chat. I see you joining me. What's going on? Thanks so much for hanging out. Let's talk about the latest Disney news. Be sure to leave your comments down in the chat below, and let's make this a conversation. If you're listening to this as a playback on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, or wherever else, be sure to leave your comments where it is that you're listening. And join us next Monday at 8:30 p.m. Central Time for the live stream. So anyways, thanks so much for hanging out, you guys. Let's talk about the latest Disney news. So the big story that came out today, literally today, is that we got some more information for the animation area, the new animation area called the Magic of Disney Animation is coming to Disney MGM, well, not MGM Studios. See, who am I? I'm talking about Disney Animation. I'm thinking Disney MGM Studios. It is Disney's Hollywood Studios getting this update. So a new thing with a Olaf Animatronic. Let's see down in the chat already. I'm thinking of applying to Disney to be an actor. Oh, cool. Good luck. I hope that you get that. Maybe I'll see you in some things, and I'll say, I remember that guy from MiM Monday. So if you're not sure what I'm talking about, guys, over at Hollywood Studios, Star Wars Launch Bay closed recently so that we can get the all-new Disney animation experience. And they've been kind of giving us little by little the things that are going to be in this Magic of Disney Animation building. And one of the things that we always knew was going to be in there was an Animation Academy type experience. Now, if you can think back to the earlier days of Disney MGM Studios, they had an experience like this, where you learned to draw from Disney animators, and it was, pretty cool and interactive. And then over at in Animal Kingdom, that experience was there for a while. Also, learning how to draw from Disney artists, etc. And so we found out recently that we're getting another experience like this coming back to the Magic of Disney Animation at Disney MGM Studios. And, this next announcement that I want to talk about was met with mixed reviews. So let's jump right into it. There's a new area called Olaf Draws. And in this area, we found out there's going to be an animatronic Olaf who is learning to draw alongside you, and you are going to learn to draw from real Disney animators. Of course, they're not going to actually be there. They will be on screen in pre-recorded segments. So let's break down this announcement and talk about the good and the maybe not so good about it. Excuse me. So, like I said, there was concept art released today, and you could see, hey, what's going on? A lot of people joining the chat today. Thanks so much. You could see this really cool setup of on the stage. There's a whole animation desk, and Olaf, an animatronic Olaf, is sitting at it. And this animatronic Olaf is going to be guiding you guys through the learning to draw process. Oh, I love your shirt. Oh, thank you so much. Grumpy. We're talking about Disney animation today, so I thought I would wear the OG, a Snow White shirt. So according to the Disney Parks blog, it says, step into a new Animation Academy experience with Olaf Draws, where everyone's favorite snowman takes center stage as your cheerful host. So he's not the one teaching you to draw. He's learning along with you, and he's hosting the show. It says, with his signature warmth, optimism, and playful humor, Olaf invites guests of all ages to explore the art of character drawing. So that sounds pretty cool. So he's sitting there at his desk. The lines for Olaf are being recorded by Josh Gad himself, Olaf himself, and he has some pretty humorous lines in there. But then on the big screen is where you're actually going to learn to draw. It says on Disney Parks blog again, young animators in the making can spark their creativity at sleigh-themed tables. So the tables look like sleighs from Arendelle. While animator-style desk workstations invite kids at heart to feel as though they've stepped right in to the studio. So you'll be sitting at these little tables, and you'll have, desks that kind of look like animation desks. Hey, what's going on? And you're going to be learning to draw. There's going to be a big screen up there with real Disney animators in these pre-recorded segments teaching you how to draw. And so you have some of the people they gave us on Disney Parks blog who are going to be teaching you how to draw. You're going to learn how to draw Mickey Mouse with Dan Abraham, who was the director of Once Upon a Studio, the thing that inspired this whole new pavilion, the short that inspired this whole new pavilion. And he also directed the Baymax cartoon show. You're going to learn how to draw Minnie Mouse with Hyun Min Lee, an animator from Frozen 2 and Princess and the Frog. Learn to draw Donald Duck with Austin Trailer, an animator on Once Upon a Studio and Moana 2. This next one is a big one. You can learn how to draw Genie with Eric Goldberg, an animator from Disney's Aladdin and Hercules. Guys, he is a big deal. Getting Eric Goldberg to do this, that's a big deal. That's a really big deal. So he was obviously the person who originally drew the Genie, and Disney has been tapping him for a lot of things lately. In particular, he was one of the people who worked on the Cirque du Soleil show over at Disney Springs, the one based on Disney animation. He also, I see there's a Lorcana fan in the chat. If you remember during Disney 100, when they released the Disney 100 Animator Collection exclusive Lorcana cards, Eric Goldberg was the one who did the Genie card. So very cool that he's going to be teaching you how to draw the Genie, of course. You'll be able to learn how to draw Moana with Samantha Vilfort, a story artist from Encanto and Zootopia 2. Learn to draw Stitch with Fawn. Oh my gosh, I cannot pronounce this last name. Vera Sunthorn, the director and head of story from Wish and Raya and the Last Dragon. Learn to draw Olaf with Trent Corey, the director, another director from Once Upon a Studio and Frozen 3. Ursula with Michael Woodside, an animator from Big Hero 6 and Encanto. And learn to draw Judy Hopps and Nick Wilde with Brian Howard, the director of Zootopia and Zootopia 2. So this is the big leagues, guys. These are like the real people, or some of the real people, and actual people who worked on these films, who have these pre-recorded segments that are going to teach you how to draw, and they're going to be interacting with the Olaf animatronic. That sounds awesome to me. But the complaint is that we're losing that personal touch from having an actual Disney animator, in the room with you, and that personal touch, that human touch of having someone in there. So I'm betting there's going to be, obviously a cast member in there directing traffic and, keeping an eye on things, making sure no one stabs anybody with a pencil or anything. Sorry, I'm a elementary school teacher. These are the things I think about. Or in my class, throwing pencils. My goodness. But anyways, so someone's supervising. I'm sure people will be better behaved in Disney, right? But no one actually leading the animation, right? Nobody actually in the room with you, drawing with you. So you'll be learning to draw from a video and an animatronic. So, people are saying this looks really cool because the Olaf animatronic looks awesome, which I do agree. Not as cool as the one that some of the foreign parks are getting, what is it? Paris getting, the walking Olaf. I think Hong Kong's getting the actual walk around animatronic Olaf as well. But this is cool. So I don't know. It looks really cool, but you don't have that human touch. But you're learning from the actual people who worked on these films. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Do you think having an animatronic Olaf and these real big names from Disney animation teaching you to draw, you think that is better or worse than learning to draw from an animator in the room with you? Now, a lot of the comments that I've seen also have to do with Rafiki's Planet Watch. So over there in Animal Kingdom, Rafiki's Planet Watch is now closed for refurbishment, and in that area is where they used to have the Animation Academy. After it left Hollywood Studios, it went over to Animal Kingdom, and that's where it was. And there was a live animator, someone who knew how to draw, in the room with you, teaching you how to draw. That's closed, and that's going away. That's not coming back, because that area is where we're getting the new Bluey experience. Pretty sure that's exactly where we're getting the new Bluey experience. And that's why that's not coming back. So people are saying, why can't those people, those artists, go over to Hollywood Studios and do this show? That's a fair question, right? They may not be the people, who are in the credits for the movies, but they're, obviously very talented people who deserve to share their art and be a part of this experience too. But, on the flip side, this technology behind this Olaf is going to be awesome. And I think learning to draw from these, other animators, these more well-known names, is pretty cool. So, I don't know. Let's see, down in the chat, it says, how long is the session? I'm not sure. Disney didn't specify, as far as I can see, how long the session's going to be, but I don't know, maybe about 20 minutes, probably about 15, 20 minutes, I'm guessing. But yeah, so it looks pretty cool. If you go on Disney Parks blog or on Disney's YouTube or on their social media, you can see this video. You can see in the video, you see Josh Gad recording some of his lines. He said something funny, obviously Olaf's hilarious, but one thing he said that was funny was like, oh, the artist who drew Olaf is teaching Olaf how to draw Olaf. We're way beyond the looking glass. So, which is funny because the overall theme of a lot of the animation building that they're going to be reopening here is Alice in Wonderland, Mary Blair kind of stuff. So that's a fun little joke there. Also, if you remember way back earlier days of MGM Studios and Hollywood Studios, they had an area in this same building called Drawn to Animation, and it was very similar, where there was a cast member there interacting with Mushu from Mulan. Mushu was on a screen, and they were kind of talking back and forth to each other and talking about Disney animation. And so there's a nod to that in this concept art. On Olaf's desk, there is a maquette of Mushu. So yeah, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on this. Do you think it's going to be cool? Do you think it's going to be, kind of a letdown not having human people in there? I don't know. Let me know. I think it's going to be awesome, but I am also a huge fan of animatronics. So anytime I can see a brand new animatronic, I'm all for it. Also, like on Olaf's desk, on his paper, it's in the concept art, there's a picture of Mickey Mouse, like he just drew Mickey Mouse, and on the screen there's Mickey Mouse. So I'm wondering if he's learning to draw with you, if his paper that he's drawing on, I say with air quotes, is that gonna change with what we're drawing? Like, are you actually going to be able to look at his paper and see the drawing start to appear? If so, that's awesome. I think it's really, really cool. And obviously that's how it should be, since he's learning to draw along with you. So I don't know. Only time will tell. But I think this is really, really a cool thing, and I'm actually excited for it. My wife is actually an animator, and her comment was, we're gonna miss having, she's gonna miss having the actual animators there in the room, and she says that it's not gonna be the same, and those animators should have the same job they had at Rafiki's Planet Watch over here. So I don't know. Let me know what you think. So on to the next story. This one is kind of a rumor, okay? But a rumor with a lot of, I feel like, weight behind it because of who started this rumor. So the president of Touring Plans, if you don't know what Touring Plans is, it's this really big, not affiliated with Disney, kind of third-party company. They're the ones who do the unofficial guides. If you've ever been to Barnes & Noble or something and seen the unofficial guide to Walt Disney World or unofficial guide to Disneyland, those are written by Touring Plans, owned by Len Testa. And Len Testa also has a, he has an app where it's called Lines, and it helps you see actual wait times and compared to the posted wait times that Disney's giving you. Again, not affiliated with Disney, but it's really cool and really helpful. It also helps you plan. Like they have crowd calendars and all this stuff. So he's really, really, really knowledgeable about Disney. He also has a ton of connections. He has his own podcast called The Disney Dish, which is my favorite podcast. From me being a little teeny tiny Disney podcast, my favorite podcast that I listen to all the time is Len's podcast, Disney Dish. And he has great information. Typically, anytime he says something as far as it being a rumor, he ends up being right because of all the inside information that Len has. So he reported on WDW Magic, on a forum on that website, that the initial creative plans for Villans Land at Magic Kingdom have been scrapped. He went on to say that Walt Disney Imagineering is now being directed to develop bigger, bolder concepts for the project, and that the budget is secondary. So, again, this is a rumor, but on his podcast, he clarified these statements that he made on the WDW Magic Forum, and kind of went into a little bit more detail about what he meant. So I'm going to talk about that now. If you want to hear this, go to listen to the most recent episode of the Disney Dish podcast with Jim Hill, hosted by Len Testa and Jim Hill, and hear his words for yourself. But I kind of want to just talk about this for a minute because this is really interesting. So we had the concept art for Villans Land released at D23, the Ultimate Disney Fan Event. Was it last year or 2 years ago now? And they look pretty cool. You can see in it what looks to be a roller coaster themed to Maleficent, we assume, because it's all kind of covered in these like briars and thorn bushes and stuff. And you see a Maleficent dragon in the concept art. You see a big castle in the background there. Looks like a bunch of water. It looks cool. It looks villainy and stuff. One thing that always bothered me personally, this is me talking here, is that I don't particularly like exposed roller coaster tracks in a theme park. If you go to a Six Flags or a SeaWorld or something, that's fine. It doesn't bother me there. But in like a Disney park or something, if there's exposed track outside, they had better explain that as best as they can, because I think that's lazy theming. Like I live in San Antonio and I drive by the Six Flags Fiesta Texas all the time. And I see the Superman roller coaster where it's just a red roller coaster and you have a statue of Superman just standing on top of it. And I think that's super, super lame. I don't like that. And I know that Universal Studios does that a lot too. So I looked at this concept art and I was like, an outdoor roller coaster, really, Disney? That's what we're doing. And it seems like they might have thought the same thing, So basically, what Len went on to say is that the ideas are there, but they're all going to kind of be plussed up. So apparently around Christmas time, the Imagineers kind of met together and had a discussion about how to make Villans Land better. Because as you know, we're getting a new CEO, Josh D'Amaro. He was the head of Disney Parks for a very long time. And I'm going to kind of jump around to another story, but these two stories kind of interconnect. So Josh D'Amaro was quoted recently in saying about Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, he said, "Fans like it, but they don't love it." That was a quote that he had about Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. And as we know, they're going out of their way to plus that experience, right? They're making it, the Mandalorian and Grogu theme now, and they're giving more for the gunners and the engineers to do. And that was his whole big push, was to make it something that fans love, not like. And first of all, props to Josh D'Amaro for being so frank with us, being honest and speaking like a fan to the fans. Because one thing I talked about on a previous episode is that Josh D'Amaro clearly loves the parks, right? He's somebody who's really into the Disney parks, not just because, that's his job, but you can tell that he just genuinely loves them. And so he has had his hands all the way in this project, apparently, for the Mandalorian and Grogu redo of Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. Which, by the way, that trailer came out for Mandalorian and Grogu, I guess one of the latest trailers. And it looks awesome. It looks really good. That movie comes out May 22nd, 2026. But back to the Villans Land thing. With Josh D'Amaro saying that about Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run and going through all this effort to make it better, I could just imagine Josh D'Amaro doing the same thing with the Villans Land Plans. Now, all I've ever seen is what you guys have seen too, the concept art. That's everywhere. But it sounds like Josh D'Amaro went in and said, "We can do better. We can do better." So Len on the podcast said something along the lines of a roller coaster like Goofy's Barnstormer and the roller coaster like Tron or Guardians of the Galaxy are both roller coasters, but they're not the same thing at all. And we're going from one thing to the other with Villans Land, with the coaster in Villans Land. So we're still getting a coaster, but it looks like they're going to redesign this thing probably to be more of a story coaster. I was kind of picturing, when I saw this concept art, it being kind of like Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure, which, by the way, I've never actually experienced for myself, but I've seen enough videos and stuff to know there's animatronics and whatnot, and it's still an outdoor coaster. So I thought it was going to be something like that. But this comment by Len, who apparently has inside information, makes it sound like we're going to get something more enclosed, probably, maybe something more like Guardians, where you have story going on as well, maybe some projection stuff, and I don't know. But that gets me really hopeful, because the roller coaster was the thing that I was particularly disappointed in with the concept art. Because one thing I've been saying this for a long time, is that me personally, I don't go to Disney necessarily for thrills. I go for story. And if there's a thrill involved with the story, awesome. But I don't like cheap thrills. I don't like unthemed thrills. I'm not into that. Give me story or give me nothing. So that sounds like that's exactly what they're doing. And then there's also going to be another attraction, a dark ride, that apparently same thing. Josh D'Amaro supposedly went in and said, "We can do better." And the comparison that Len has given is, you can have the Great Movie Ride in a building, and you can have Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway in a building. They're the same building, but two completely different experiences, right? So it sounds like we're getting something, again, like he said, something along the lines of more like Rise of the Resistance. So something where they probably had some cheaper version of a dark ride, and now they're going to plus it. So that gets me really excited. Because I'll be honest, I haven't been the most excited for Villans Land. I might be in the minority here, but it wasn't something that I was super, super stoked on. Not to mention the fact that the castle in this concept art is just making me think so much of the Beast Castle in Magic Kingdom that, is like this big. And I know it's forced perspective, but that's probably the worst example of forced perspective I've ever seen in my entire life. Just saying. That's the one thing about New Fantasyland at Magic Kingdom that I just do not like. I like the restaurant, but I hate that teeny tiny castle. And the castle in this concept art here, whatever, Villain Castle, Maleficent Castle, whatever it is, it was just making me think of that, and it was bugging me so much. So, anyways, this rumor started by Len Testa, who apparently has really good sources, saying that we're going to get a more ambitious plan. So no, Villans Land is not scrapped. It's just getting plussed. So, I don't know. Let me know in the comments. What do you guys think about that? That's really exciting, right? A plussed up version of Villans Land. And that makes me feel so good as a Disney fan that we're getting a CEO in Josh D'Amaro who cares so much about the park and who isn't going to give us these cheapy little rides like Bob Chapek did. You know, there was so much cost cutting during the Bob Chapek era, as far as I understand, that, you know, ruined things that could have been a whole lot better, you know, and it excites me to see that between this rumor and what we're actually getting with Smuggler's Run and Josh D'Amaro's quote about Smuggler's Run, that we're getting someone who cares about the parks. And gosh, that's so exciting. It also makes me wonder if any of this, you know, plus it, make it better attitude is going to be filtered into Piston Peak National Park, the Cars Land coming to Magic Kingdom as well. Or if, you know, if that same love and attention to detail is going to be put into the new Tropical America's Land at Animal Kingdom. There's so many new projects underway that, of course, Josh D'Amaro was the head of parks. So, you know, he had his hand in a lot of these things, but now he's going to be CEO. And now he gets the final say. And man, that's exciting. That's exciting. So let me know in the comments or you know, wherever it is that you're listening, whether you're in the chat now or listening to this, you know, whenever. Let me know. Are you excited for Villans Land? And how do you feel about this rumor that what we see in the concept art is probably not going to be what we get? I'm just really excited for the next D23 when we hopefully find out more details of what's going to happen. I want to know what's the coaster. I really want to know what the dark ride is going to be. I have no idea. And the restaurant experience, what is that going to be? You know, only time will tell. So we'll see. We'll see what the Imagineers come up with their new orders to plus it. All right. So one more thing to talk about here, and that is the Toy Story 5 trailer. So that dropped. And it looks good, guys. Did you see the trailer? I think it's fine. I think they kind of, you know, give a little bit of, they show a little bit about Woody coming back, because I know that was a lot of people's complaint. Mine as well is, how are they getting Woody back? Woody isn't with the gang anymore. So they kind of showed that a little bit. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the trailer, I think it's hilarious that Woody is balding. They showed him with, like, you know, a bald spot on the back of his head, which obviously as a toy just means that his hair color, the paint has been scraped off. But, you know, it's also a fun joke to show his age. And that looks funny. The whole thing with the iPad, you know, and I don't know. It looks like a good movie. And I've been one of the people who've been saying we don't need any more Toy Story movies. Please stop making Toy Story movies. But this looks fun. I don't know. It looks good. Let me know. Are you excited for this? Also, I mentioned earlier Mando and Grogu. Are you excited for that one? Which, by the way, Toy Story 5, June 19th, 2026. And Mando and Grogu, May 22nd, 2026. So both movies that are coming out really soon. But anyways, that's all I have for you guys today. Lots of interesting things, lots of things to think about going forward, from the Olaf Animatronic kind of replacing a live cast member, to Josh D'Amaro giving orders to fix Villans Land before it's even been constructed. You know, that's so exciting. A lot of good things coming up. So thanks so much for joining me, guys. I've had a blast tonight with you guys. Stay tuned. This Friday, episode 2 of season 8 of the Mickey in Minutes podcast drops. So this is the news show, MiM Monday. The official podcast episodes are on season 8 right now, and that second episode comes up. It's going to be all about Disney World nostalgia from the 90s. If you went to Disney in the 90s, then this episode is just going to be a big nostalgia dump of all the things I remember from going to Disney in the 90s as a kid. It's going to be a fun episode. It's been fun for me to go through and think about all these things that I haven't thought about in years. I'm not going to spoil it now, but it's going to be a good one. So I hope that you tune into that this Friday. And yeah, thanks so much for hanging out with me, guys. This has been a blast. I'm your host, Nick Lazaga. This is Mickey in Minutes, and I will see you next time. Bye. Hey, what's going on, everybody?